And if you don't want to do it, then I'll turn it off. And so I do it for my church. I'm trying to show people at my church that we can have these kind of conversations wherever, and I'm trying to like have a good collection of people from different backgrounds and things like that. So the question I always start off with, no matter who it is, we're all going to die someday, universal. What do you think happens next? And then the other part of it would be whatever you believe about that or doubt about that, like how did you get there? Right. So, and you don't have to talk to the camera, we can just talk, right. But yeah.
Say, like I'm not exactly sure what's after. I'm not an organized religion person, but I am a theist, not an atheist, a theist.
Believe in God of
I
some
believe
sort?
in some sort.
Yeah.
So an agnostic is like, yeah, it could go either way.
Yeah.
But I firmly believe there's something in some degree of order, but I have no idea what it is. Afterwards, it's either, there's either the nothing or there's something. And I'd say I'm happy with that. The only thing I would be unhappy with is reincarnation. Because I think,
you'll have lived the life.
Right, there's a lot of bad lives out there, unfortunately. And so, I'm happy with the one I've got. So,
so I imagine if you died early, you'd want another chance, but other than that...
Well, actually, I, about a year ago, was told that I had about 30 days to 60 days to live.
Oh, wow.
I had multiple organ failure and was hospitalized in Rush. And the doctor said that I had a 20% chance of living 30 days and a 0% chance without transplants of living 60 days.
Yeah.
And
wow.
So let's see. They were wrong. Obviously,
here you are.
I'm here. It's been over a year.
Yeah.
And I did not need any transplants. So there's some degree of the person that I am as far as like I just said.
Yeah. Was it an illness that would have caused that?
I didn't realize I had become diabetic.
Oh, okay.
And was doing things that you're not supposed to do when you're diabetic.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know any better. So carbs left and right. And, at some point, my blood sugar doesn't cause any symptoms. Oh. So I will walk around like nothing's wrong. Yeah. My blood sugar can be like over 1,000. And it should be between 80 and 120.
So what went through your mind when you're thinking, for sure, I only have a little while to live or whatever?
Well, I didn't have to, like I said, I have more of the, either I'm going to die or I'm not, but I'm going to give it the best chance that I can. And, if I do, well, I'll find out what's going on. And, if I don't, then I get to continue to enjoy my life and delay that. Yeah. And so technically, I guess I'm on my second chance. Yeah. So,
did you grow up in a certain religion or anything like that?
Christian background.
My Catholic Christian or Baptist or something like that?
Catholic Christian. My mom, in particular, my parents were not married, and both my parents Italian. My mom wanted to have me baptized, but the church said absolutely, positively not. Wow. You're not married. The child's a bastard. No baptism. Yeah. And that didn't leave my mom too happy at the time. No. So she kind of went away from religion a bit. Yeah. Whereas my grandfather continued to be fairly religious, and I got some background from him. And one of my close friends, my neighbor, when I was 5, grew up with a Pentecostal church. And I'd say that a lot of the theological discussions that I've had growing up and throughout my life were with him. Where he's a year older than I am, and he was talking about his church, and I would ask well, is there this? Is there that? And fundamentally, I believe in always doing the right thing, whether or not you think you're going to be rewarded for it. Yeah. And I want to know whether there is something afterwards or not. I'd like to know for sure that everything that I did in this life was what I thought was right, and I never did something less right because it was easier. And so
do you feel like you're a good person?
I feel like I try very hard.
Yeah. What was your impressions of what he told you about his Pentecostal church?
Well, it was a very strict church. So,
Okay.
He couldn't listen to music.
Yeah.
He couldn't sit in the seat of a sinner. That's one of the Bible verses. So he wasn't allowed to go to like a Cubs game growing up because they were very, very strict. And I don't remember the part of the scripture, but it is.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to sit in the seat
Of a scoffer or something like that.
of
Yeah.
a sinner. So there were a lot of things where he was.
I've never heard anything that strict.
He couldn't listen to radio songs. Everything had to be religious,
Okay.
and so he'd sneak songs off the radio at my house. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
supposed to listen to the radio. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's ridiculous.
But yet he would have called himself a Christian. So like he's kind of like sneaking around the
I think
church's
he was,
rules.
I don't know if he was.
Or
he
was
was
he a
some
wayward-
form of Christian. Yeah, it's there.
prodigal son kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
So.
And then what was your impression of the Catholic Church? I imagine you went with your relatives.
Very
once
long
in
masses,
a
I think,
while.
are the general feel towards it.
Kind of long and boring.
I didn't go too much, though. That's the thing.
Oh, okay.
That most of the time I've gone to a Catholic mass has been for funerals.
Yeah.
But it's I could see how people draw strength from it.
Yeah.
I
Never went to the Pentecostal church.
I did.
Oh, okay.
He's Puerto Rican, so he went to
Yeah.
a Spanish Pentecostal church. So
Yeah.
I didn't exactly understand what was being
Oh,
said,
okay.
especially since in English we use higher form of English, I guess, an older school type of English in the Bible.
Right, yeah.
But in the Spanish Bible, they'll do the same thing.
Yeah.
So even if you knew Spanish, you don't know Bible Spanish.
Yeah.
So doeth and saith, it's it's like it's even harder. So
Yeah.
he would translate for me, and love my friend to death, but I would say he's a terrible translator.
What? So you say did you say spiritual but not religious, or you don't
I
count
firmly
yourself
believe that there's something out there, and
Yeah.
and firmly believe in
don't
doing.
like the idea of organized religion, right? Or
I think that
I don't want to put words in your mouth. I've heard
no, it's
it's kind of very common that people say that. But,
It's I've seen a lot of people who try to they don't adhere to the spirit of various rules,
yeah.
and they'll figure out ways to justify rules where it's like, well, technically I'm doing the right
Loopholes.
thing, and it's like I think
Tax
that
loopholes.
God is not going to
God's not the tax
God's
man.
not going to sit there and say like, oh, like this is ridiculous,
Yeah. Yeah.
and which is one of my beliefs is that if God is all powerful and all knowing, then He knows what I'm thinking. He knows my appreciation of life, and that there's
Yeah.
that's one part of organized religion that I find strange, is that like you believe in an all-knowing being, and yet you have to make a prayer. If something's important to you, God would know that already.
Yeah.
And so I think that you're guided one way or another.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting. So, like Jesus, have you read the Bible much, or
I've read parts.
have you heard of the Sermon on the Mount, or the
Can't say I
Beatitudes?
have.
Blessed are those who weep now, or blessed.
I've heard blessed art those, but
That comes from his Sermon on the Mount, and so much of that sermon was about the Ten Commandments, and he talked about, and I don't know if this is like getting rid of loopholes or what it is, but he actually talked about like it's for example, it's wrong to kill or it's wrong to murder, but then he said, but I say to you, if you have anger in your heart towards your brother and you call him a fool, you're in danger of the fire of hell. So he was actually like, I think it sounds like he was being more strict, but I think he was also like getting to the spirit of the law. Like, okay, you think you're okay
Right.
because you haven't killed anyone, but have you hurt anyone with your words? Like, have you?
well, right, exactly.
You're
Like,
going against the spirit of the rule.
the intent, the spirit, the
The
meaning.
intent, yeah. And
right.
have you ever, Mike? Have you ever heard people explain religion? Like Christianity as it's not a religion; it's a relationship. That's kind of a very common thing for people to say.
I've not heard that.
But No? Okay. I mean, like the idea of like, okay, there's organized religion, and I'm a part of it. I go to a non-denominational Christian church. It's organized. We meet regularly. We have, like I guess you'd say a statement of faith, and in other words, certain creeds we hold to. But part of that is, and I think this is based on, so we're very Bible-oriented. So it's based on the whole narrative of the Bible is that there's a relationship with our Creator that was lost in the very beginning. And then there's a whole narrative of how God wins us back and brings us back into a right relationship with Himself, which involves Jesus. And so to think of it in terms of relationship, which like religion would be the kind of people who have the rules, and I gotta follow X number of rules, and then I'll be rewarded. Like you say, like you want to be able to do those things in the spirit of doing those things without having to be rewarded at the end. It's more do it because it's the right thing to do, right? So for me, so I became a Christian in my late teens, and ever since then I believed I'm going to heaven, based not on am I good enough, or have I changed my life enough, or what have I done to deserve this. It's more what, like Jesus died for our sins. It's based on Jesus, what He did to deserve it. In other words, He took my punishment in my place. So for me now, it's more living out that relationship that Jesus began with me. And the whole idea is that, Jesus is alive. He rose from the dead. He conquered death, but now he lives. And in a spiritual sense, we can have a relationship with Him. And so I'm living out that relationship where I don't have to, I guess, necessarily follow the rules in order to go to heaven, but I want to. And so there's a big difference. It's as a matter of fact, it's not so much what I have to avoid, or how much do I have to do in order to be saved. It's more on the order of what do I get to do in order to express my love as a part of this relationship.
I've heard variations of that.
Yeah. Do you when you think of the being, like you said, you're a deist, right? Do you think of this deity as being a personality that we can, not necessarily a person,
I would say that it's a personality that I have no capability of understanding.
Yeah. So a personality that, like, it's the idea, and I guess as opposed to an impersonal God, like an impersonal force that just kind of like is there but doesn't respond, it doesn't have feelings, and doesn't, so the idea of the God of the Bible.
Feelings that I don't understand.
Huh?
I'd say a lot of feelings that I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't.
I would just like to just encourage you to think about, so like the Bible says we're made in God's image, right?
That guy has a point.
Doesn't mean that we are God or anything like that. What it means is, just as like you look in the mirror, there's an image there. We have a lot to do with that image, right? We aren't. It's not the same as us. It's lacking dimension. It can't make noise. There's a lot of things it can't do. But we can relate to it because, it's a lot like us. So the idea is that God has created us as humans, and this was in the Bible. It's described that we were made in His image after He made all the animals and all the different things. So as opposed to all the other things He made, man has this special relationship with God, where we can have a relationship with God. Mm-hmm. I totally get that. It's like, man, if the Creator, if this deity is the creator of everything, the more I realize how big everything is, and how
infinitely small everything is, the more I realize I could never understand the Creator, right? But if the Creator made me in such a way that what I need to know, maybe not everything I want to know or try to know I can know about God, but what I need to know in order to have a relationship with Him, I could. See what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like God made us in such a way that we can have we can understand at least a little bit, enough about God to have a relationship with Him. And I end up talking to a lot of atheists, and they'll say, well, you can't, what about this? What about that? It's like, okay, well, there's a lot of things I don't know.
Right.
And if I have to live out if it's based on my demands, I can always come up with more demands of things I want to know that I can't know about God. But the Bible says no, everything you need to know is available. And so as Christians, we believe God revealed Himself, and He's been revealing Himself through the pages of the Bible, where we learn more and more about God. I would encourage you to read the Bible more.
I've read a lot more than you think.
Okay. Yeah. So and just know that your Creator wants to have a relationship with you.
Like I said, He knows what I'm thinking now.
Yeah. Part of that, and just the thing about prayer is, I'm with you on, there's nothing I can tell God that He doesn't know, right? But there's something about actually putting I think a lot of things that I don't agree with. See what I'm saying? So it's like, by the time it gets to my lips, I've decided, okay, this is what I want to communicate to God.
Right.
And so there's a purpose for prayer that goes beyond just our thinking.
But I think that when two people talk to each other, where we only see the action versus the motivation behind the action.
Yeah.
There's a lot of there's some people talk about hey, that person who was rude to you might have had a really, really bad day and is actually a really nice person. You don't know the motivation and everything that led up to it.
Yeah.
And everything that led up to them uttering a set of words. But I think that the same thing, where we don't know what each other's motivations is, but I believe that a higher power would know every reason that we did this. And, for everyone, the reason why we were weak in this situation, the reason we were strong in this situation, the reason we were rooted in this position, and, just the conditions of everything that's made us would be known. And, if I knew all of that, then I'd know immediately, the words you would say, I would already know that what you'd want to have committed.
Yeah.
But there is something to say about your own line.
We two strangers come and meet in Target and start. So you're saying if we didn't even need words, we just look at each other, we know what each other's thinking.
Right, and there's things that we know about each other. That, I know that you've got a coat on because it's freezing outside.
Right.
And if you didn't have a coat on, I would wonder about that.
Right.
It's like,
this
person
I work here or something.
Well, right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so there's so many different things that you could see on the surface. But if you're not looking just at the surface, I think that for the most part, people have motivations that are good, and sometimes there's easier things that are there that pulls them away from it.
Yeah.
And a desire to get ahead, a desire to have more, take a shortcut. People will cheat at a board game. It's it's a board game. What's the end game here? What are you going when you beat this board game? If you cheated, what do you walk away with?
Right.
But people do that. People cheat on online games.
Yeah.
And it's so your rank's really high, but you didn't earn anything.
Right.
But, it's but that number's really high. It's it's some numbers at a computer.
Yeah.
But people have this. People have the pride. People have the desire socially to look a certain way and to act a certain way. And I think that, insecurity is probably one of the biggest driving forces of negative behaviors. But this is me just talking to random people and meeting people, that you see that a lot of negative behaviors. But see, I don't know that. I don't know what's going through their head. That's an assumption of mine. But I would say that a higher power would say, you're insecure on this, and you weren't feeling your foundation at that particular moment, so you decided to brag at dinner about something. But usually you're a modest person.
Do you ever feel like some sort of, the deity is speaking to you, or like you've gotten a message from God or deity, or
say that maybe. I couldn't say for sure.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
but more like that could be something.
Yeah. I can tell you how, like, just so you know, as a Christian, I've never heard God's voice. Well, I've had a few dreams where I don't know if that was actually God, or if God just allowed me to have that dream, but it wasn't really Him. I don't know. But anyway, other than that, I've never really like heard God's voice.
When I say
like
here,
that.
I mean look
like
at how that
physically.
lined up.
Yeah.
And
So for me, it like when I'm praying, when I'm thinking about God, or I'm thinking about something that God wants me to think about, it's more like the way I think about it is it's like an inner confirmation. Like something just clicks and I realize this is right, this is good, this is what I should do.
it's the rubber duck theory.
And a lot of it has to do with the more I read the Bible, the more I'm in touch with how God has revealed Himself through time, through history. I'm not saying you have to agree with me, but just this is what we believe, is that if it's in line with who God has shown Himself to be and the way He normally acts, or His purposes, things like that, then that inner confirmation is even stronger, because we could say it's biblical. This is the way, this is what, it's not conflicting with who God has revealed Himself to be in the Bible. And so the more I read the Bible, the more I feel like I'm hearing from God.
Okay.
This is kind of how it works. And so,
And
like,
this here's the how to say, you continue to believe that. I'm going to say a dissenting point.
sure.
That one of my issues with organized religion, and particularly the Bible, to me it sounds like the narrative of a small man, like an old school political feature who it's like, well, I'm in charge. You've got to, you've got to honor me. You've got to do this. And a lot of the Old Testament Bible sounds like a spoiled teenager.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, who would be able to commission these things to be written and to make them popular is small men who are in power that like demand everyone around them. And a lot of the Old Testament to me feels like what I've seen from very bad people, or very insecure bad people, who it's like, well, you have to do what I say because I'm the king.
Yeah.
You have to do what I say because I'm the pharaoh, and like how dare you say something bad about anything I do? I poop roses,
Right.
like,
yeah.
And that's the issue to me with the Bible, is that when I see the Bible, it brings me closer to pitiful men versus an all-knowing being who, like, I would not consider a deity to be insecure in the way men are, but the Old Testament Bible is very insecure to me.
Yeah.
So,
and I want to respect your time, but I think I have a good way to kind of like explain that. And I'll go right to what I believe is probably the most pathetic, insecure, vain statement of God in the Bible, if you look at it a certain way, okay? And that is, several times through the Old Testament, God says, more than several, I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that, to me, that's like the epitome of what you're talking
Right.
about. So if you can get past looking at God, comparing to God to a person, what we're talking about here is the creator of the universe, and the Bible talks about God as being not just the creator but the sustainer. So in other words, every beat of my heart, every breath I take, is a gift from God. The food that I, like everything, and there's so much. So we're designed to follow God, to live for God. He's not in a person to be jealous. In a man, if he thinks that women should just, like pay him all sorts of attention, and he's doing childish things to get their attention, that's pretty pathetic, right? Because he's not God. That's the thing is, what makes it pathetic is a person is acting like they should be God, like I should be everything to you, and I'm not. You're not treating me that way, and that's pathetic.
True, but if you look at the people who have things, they don't. This is a line from a rap song from a movie, Office Space. I don't know if you've seen the movie Office Space, but part of my creed is, and I'm going to replace one word because I should not say it, but it's real gangsta ninjas don't flex nuts, because real gangsta ninjas know they got them. And if you look around, the people who know that they have things, that they know that they've got money, they don't flash money. The people who don't have money flash money. The people who have love and adoration don't flash love and adoration. They know they've got it. Intelligent people don't say, look how smart I am. And if someone is, look how smart I am, they're probably not that intelligent. And it's a lot of insecure behaviors. So to me, it's that when applied to, saying like, well, that's what a man would do, or a human would do, or so. I would say that God, a deity would know that they have the love of those people that matter, and those that don't, they would understand the motivations of why not. And that's, and there is a part of the Bible that has like a. I thought you were going to go towards the book, the story of Job thing, where it's like the devil made a bet with God, and like, well, it's just because you gave him everything, and like God just decided, God should be like, I've got his love because I've got his love. I don't need to prove anything. But instead, he ruins his life, kills his children, and the happy ending is like, yeah, but here's some new children,
right?
And you're back in my good graces. But it is like. That seems like it's a strange thing to do, and it would be. Like, if someone asked me to prove something that I know how to do, it's like, why would I shake things up?
Right.
And again, I am me, and, I am just what I am.
I get it.
But
and the story of Job is a good example of that, like this conversation with the devil. And the thing, a lot of things are shown in that conversation. For example, the devil cannot do anything to these people that God doesn't allow him to do. So it's very easily God is being God in that situation. And as far as God is in control, God is demonstrating his power that way. Even comparing, like, say, people who are very wealthy, who don't have to flaunt their wealth, they're still just people, bottom line. And if
but you could see the difference. Well, I've had the privilege of working, not privilege to be honest, but I worked directly with a CTO of Microsoft, an ex-CTO of Microsoft, and this is on YouTube and online. I should not say this story.
I can,
but I do know some wealthy people, and I know some wealthy people who are down to earth, and I know some wealthy people. There's a book called Richistan, written late 2000, and in it shows definitely the uber rich competing about like ultra-sized boats. And it's like, oh well, you can't have a boat bigger than mine. So the insecurity is still there. But for the most part, on average, someone who has something tends to not need to demonstrate it. That I don't know. But I should start wrapping this up because
So. And this is, very quickly, I'll just say, comparing God to, like, thinking God, the traits of God are comparable to people is the biggest, to me, as far as, it's the biggest mistake people make, is because they don't realize if God is all in all, and has every right to be, you know, like, what are we, if God isn't
It
number
seems to be
one in our
something
life,
only we would care about.
well,
And like I said,
Yeah,
I wouldn't
no.
know the personality of a deity, but
yeah.
it seems odd that that would be important.
Yeah, like I guess, and that's getting back to relationship again. If that relationship was lost, where God, and a lot can be answered even from that very first incident. Why did God say, "Don't eat from this one tree"? You know, what does He think He's God again? In other words, does God have the right to give us any rules, even if it was only just one in the very beginning? You know, there was one rule: don't eat from that tree. You got all these other trees to eat from. And so the issue was, is God God? And so for God to say, I'm jealous, it's like, yeah, because I am God. And what you're seeking after is either serving yourself or serving something else. Anything that's not seeking after me, God, would be a cheap substitute. And I want this world to operate the way I made it to operate. So yes, I'm jealous, but it's not a petty jealousy. It's more of a serve me, follow me, obey me because I am God, and it's the right thing to do. In other words, I deserve it. And I can't think of anything else, you know, in the Bible, and this is, again, you don't have to agree with me, but the idea is that God is the creator, and everything else is the creation. And so if we're not serving God, the creator, we're serving some part of His creation. And that's called, you know, the Bible refers to that as idolatry. Like we're making idols of created things that are temporary, you know, and they're just cheap substitutes for the real thing, the creator. So, well, Mike, I want to respect your time.
No problem. I do have some shopping to do. But.
So I usually have a card. Let me see if and I usually have a bag that has them all in it. Yeah, I don't. Do you have anything to write with? I could tell you
Got my phone.
the website. Sorry.
Sure.
So it's YouTube.
Right. Yeah.
.com
Okay.
/C/ and then my name, which is JEFF REIMAN.
R-E-I-M-E-N?
Yeah, MAN. So REI man.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. I'll check it out.
So, and it'll take me a few days to get it on there, you know. But,
Unbelievable. Oh, nice.
yeah. So, good to meet you. All right. Take care.